Ever since the blueprint system was reintroduced into the game in October 2017, scrap has become an essential part of daily Rust life, mainly used for researching items and crafting workbenches, but it has also become the main form of currency in the game. So you probably want to know what the best places are to get scrap. Well, you've come to the right places. In this episode of the Rust Beginner's Guide, I'll be showing you how to get scrap fast in Rust. Quick disclaimer before I start this video. All the stats in this video are averages gained from 10,000 simulated instances of each type of loot container. Because of the nature of averages, the amount of scrap you get when hitting up these monuments will vary, and as such, the numbers in this video only serve to give you a rough idea of how much scrap you should be getting. Also keep in mind that these numbers only apply for fully unlooted monuments where you loot all the crates and recycle everything except for guns and explosives. The most common way of getting scrap is hitting the nearest road and looting junk piles. This will yield you around 15 scrap worth of items on average for every junk pile you loot. While on the road, if you're close to monuments, make sure to keep an eye out for these electrical substations. The small ones tend to have an average of 10 scrap and the larger ones usually have around 30 scrap worth of items. You can get more scrap by going to monuments as they have significantly more crates and loot than junk piles and electrical substations. So I'll be showing you a list of all the monuments in the game along with the average amount of scrap you should be getting from visiting them. I'll be going from small monuments all the way to tier 3. In the first group of monuments we have small monuments, and here they are from lowest scrap yield to highest. The worst monuments in this category are the lighthouse and the abandoned cabins with around 60 scrap. In third place we have the mining outpost with around 140 scrap. In second place we have the abandoned supermarket with around 160 scrap. And the best monument in this category is Oxum's gas station with around 190 scrap. For all three tiers of monuments, first I'll show you how much scrap they yield if you complete the puzzles, and then I'll also show you the two best monuments for getting scrap without keycards in each category. With that in mind, next up we have tier 1 monuments if we count the loot from the puzzles. The worst monument in this category is the satellite dish with around 105 scrap. Next we have the junkyard with around 145 scrap. Next, we have the large harbor with around 165 scrap. In third place in this category, we have the small harbor with around 185 scrap. In second place, we have the dome with around 310 scrap. And the best monument in this category is the sewer branch with an average of 410 scrap. The monuments you should be going to even if you don't want to do the puzzles in this category are the dome and the sewer branch. The next category of monuments is tier 2 monuments. The worst monument in this category is the giant excavator pit with around 260 scrap. In third place we have the water treatment plant and the power plant, both with around 535 scrap. In second place we have the train yard with around 575 scrap. And in first place in this category is the airfield with around 620 scrap per run. The monuments you should check out even if you don't intend to do the puzzles are the airfield and the water treatment plant. And the final category of monuments is tier 3 monuments. Two of these monuments are land-based. The military tunnels with around 1,360 scrap per run, and the launch site with around 1,425 scrap per run. If you don't have any keycards, you can expect to get around 805 scrap from the launch site and around 955 scrap from the military tunnels. The other two monuments in this category are out at sea. The oil rig with around 710 scrap, and the large oil rig with around 1,125 scrap. I don't recommend doing any of the oil rigs without keycards as the vast majority of the loot is inside the puzzle areas. And the place where you can get the most scrap in the game is the cargo ship, where you can expect to find around 2,000 scrap per run. Another way of getting scrap in Rust is getting in a boat and looting floating junk piles on the ocean. When farming these junk piles, you should expect to get around 11 scrap per junk pile on average. While you're out at sea, you can also go diving. If you don't have diving gear, you can easily find it inside toolboxes while farming for junk piles on the road. Diving sites are located on the seafloor, and the only way to find them is by looking for floating water bottles. Once you find one of these bottles, all you need to do is swim straight down. Under the water, you will find sunken ships and a few sunken crates and chests lying around. To loot them, all you need to do is swim up to them, hold D to untie them, and the untied crates will go up to the surface where you can loot them. In my opinion, going out to sea to farm junk piles and go diving is way safer and better than going to the road or monuments, as encounters with other players is way less frequent. If you want to get more scrap while farming on the road or while farming floating junk piles, you can also try brewing teas. Basic scrap tea can be brewed from 2 white berries and 2 yellow berries and will increase your scrap yield from barrels by 50%. You can combine 4 basic scrap teas into 1 advanced scrap tea, which will double your scrap yield from barrels, and you can combine 4 advanced scrap teas into 1 pure scrap tea, which will triple your scrap yield from barrels. The effect of all 3 levels of scrap tea lasts for 30 minutes. Also keep in mind that this scrap yield increase only applies to barrels you break open. Your scrap yield from everything else will stay the same. Now that you've got a lot of loot, you need to recycle it. The best places to recycle are the outpost and the bandit camp, as they are safe zones so people can't take your loot while you're recycling. If you don't live close to any of these places, don't worry about it, as all monuments in the game except for the abandoned cabins, the giant excavator pit, the oil rigs, and the dome have recyclers somewhere inside their area. If you would like to find out where the recycler is in a specific monument, here's a playlist of all my Rust monument guides, which among other things also include the locations of the recyclers. An additional way of getting scrap is selling items at the scrap exchange at the bandit camp. The best trade here is selling 1 high quality metal for 2 scrap. So if you need any more scrap, you should sell your high quality metal after recycling at the bandit camp for a bit of extra scrap. If you're worried about the scrap exchange running out of scrap, don't be, as roughly every 10 seconds 140 scrap respawns inside the merchant's inventory. Another piece of advice I'll give you is to stay away from gambling. If you really need scrap, avoid gambling at the bandit camp at all costs, as the house always wins in the long run. I hope this guide helped you, and if it did, consider leaving a like and subscribing. If you really enjoy my content, you can join my Discord server and chat with me, or you can consider becoming one of my patrons on patreon.com/thememishgamer, or you can click the join button next to the subscribe button to become a channel member. I would like to thank Bothered Nickel for being my patron, and thank you guys so much for helping me reach over 7,170 subscribers.